You are listening to the newest podcast from ourcommunitynow.com. I am your host, Josh Hammerling, and this is the Paranormal Pass. I'm alongside my partner in crime,
Dalton Van Hoosier.
And he's got a few things he needs to say before we get started.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel, ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you are on your phone, make sure that you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Woo! So finally, I get to do a podcast that I actually shine in. This is what I'm after. I love the paranormal. I love the weird and all the good things, Dalton.
The mysterious.
Don't you? It is.
Absolutely.
So for those of you who have never met us before, you've obviously never seen me.
You don't show up on anything.
No, not at all. But for those of you who don't know, the whole reason I got into radio in the first place was to be like Art Bell. You know Art Bell.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was my whole drive. And
R.I.P.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, when George Norrie took over, it just wasn't the same. You know, he was just trying to sell books.
Yeah.
That's it. But I have a degree in anthropology. I've always wanted to find Bigfoot. I look for UFOs in the sky everywhere I go. I look for ghosts over my shoulder. I love, live, and breathe the paranormal. I probably read more of that news than anything else. So for all of you who don't know, that's my background. It's the whole reason I wanted to get started in this. And here we are. The people at Penn have decided that I can do this. So what got you interested in the paranormal?
I love horror.
Ooh.
That is my realm.
Like movies, books?
I do. I love it all. Audio books. Audio dramas are like the new thing now.
Really?
Tackling that. And so I love all of that. But I also love to dive into that for the real.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reality. Absolutely. It's just like we discussed right before we jumped on here. Just looking for anything that I can
get into.
Find a way to get some of them things that come out here.
Absolutely. Did I ever tell you that I did some forensic anthropology and dealt with the dead? That's a whole other podcast.
Are we talking about morgues here?
Oh, we're talking about recoveries. Is what it was, in cooperation with police departments and boiling bones and all kinds of stuff.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Analyzing them. Oh, it was horrible. Are you kidding? That's the reason I went into cultural anthropology. I was like, I'm not going to deal with dead people. I'm going to start looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made a lot more sense. So you got into it for horror.
I did. Yes.
Like a macabre desire to see those things, macabre hobbies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. So we have, as I'm sure as everyone has been reading the news lately, the biggest thing we have to fear isn't actually something that's paranormal in nature, but really just as scary. And that's the spread of the coronavirus.
Yes.
Which terrifies me to no end.
Popped up in China.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wuhan, China.
Yes.
Which, did you know Wuhan, China, at one point, and probably still does, held the largest bioweapon research facility that was almost in that part of the world.
I did not know that.
Yes, Wuhan was also the epicenter of the release. So is it coincidence, number one, that there's a bioweapons research facility there, and that's where it ends up escaping, maybe? But somebody gets infected, and suddenly it moves out. And now we've got this virus that I think the current infection toll is over 8,000, which dwarfs the SARS outbreak of 2015. There was 180 dead, I want to say now, which I'm not sure what the infection or the death rate is, but it's bad.
Yes, it's not. It's certainly not good. And
they never are.
Trying to evacuate as many people as they can from the area. I know that they recently had a flight of U.S. citizens flying out from there, and I think they ended up landing in Alaska somewhere because Canada last minute changed their mind, didn't want them landing there.
Yeah, so if you were an American citizen and a diplomat, even just American citizens, the U.S. offers to get you out of situations. It is one of the beauties of being an American citizen, besides all of the other wonderful freedoms that we enjoy. But everyone that was a diplomat in Wuhan was on the airplane that you're talking about. And they had to stop in Anchorage, and they were supposed to go to Canada and then to California, but Canada was like, no,
we're good.
No. So yeah, they've actually been quarantined at a specialized facility in California that is designed specifically to deal with people like this, which the CDC has plans in place, But
how'd you like to be that pilot? that has to fly in and out of there. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna end up getting quarantined no matter where you're going.
Yeah. Are you also in a full biohazard suit? I mean, how prepared are
Oh,
you?
yeah.
You know, I've got to
That's a good
imagine
point.
that they probably have them in their own respirator, their own oxygen supply, full protection, because you have to treat these people like they are infected, whether they are or not. And it takes 2 weeks before you actually show symptoms. So you were asymptomatic for 2 weeks. But during that time, apparently you can spread the infection simply through the classic, whatever gets in your mucous membranes or eyes, which is why you shouldn't touch your eyes or nose and wear a mask and
It's true.
all of
Yes,
that.
yes. All the
stuff.
fomite business. If you're touching anything,
Yeah.
then you go to your face.
Oh.
That's how it goes. You know, and this is where, okay, if anybody has ever seen the show Community, there is a particular individual in that show. He just parallels movies with life, with his life. It's just everything runs parallel. Everything recalls. This is the way I live. A parallel life with the movies that I've seen. And the first movie that I thought of with this is Contagion. Because it almost runs exactly parallel with what is happening.
Which
right
was a
now.
movie when I saw it back. That's like a 90s movie, isn't it?
It was
pretty old
It was
now.
actually 2011.
Was it?
2011.
Oh, that's right. Because
2013.
I was thinking there was another movie called Outbreak.
Outbreak. Yes.
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 That was the one in the 90s. But
Dustin
yeah,
Hoffman, I believe. Yeah.
which terrified me. That was the
Yes.
first movie where they dealt with, a mass pandemic.
Pandemic. Yes.
Pandemic
Yeah,
making its way into the world and people dying. And then when Outbreak happened, that one really freaked me out. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I will never forget the movie theater scene in that movie because you're sitting in the movie theater watching this movie and somebody is infected in the movie theater and he coughs and it follows
that's
the
right.
particles through as everybody's laughing and it just goes into everybody's.
That's
mouths
horrible.
and yeah,
Wasn't that caused by a bat in the movie too?
I think it was a monkey.
A monkey.
It was It was a little. I forgot the name of that kind of monkey, but yeah, he was biting people and scratching people.
That's horrible.
Contagion was a bat pig virus that had somehow combined.
Is that a
together to-
coincidence that they make a movie a couple years ago that has the bat as the form of transmission? I don't know. Conspiracies. It makes me wonder. I really get weird about that kind of stuff. But for those of you who don't know, a lot of people suspect that the virus pops up because people were eating bats.
Yes, yeah, that's actually a very common form of transmission. I think that there's some similarity in our DNA somewhere down the line that makes bats very easy to transmit viruses to
That
humans
is
and pigs
just
as well.
weird.
Yeah.
But not to be too ethnocentric here, but Americans tend to eat food that don't have the heads and, small flying rodents.
We're
is
very
what we
picky.
eat.
We're very
very
picky.
much so.
We avoid the insects too.
Yeah, all together, which
Yeah.
are pretty nutritious. Another podcast.
Oh yeah, no, they're
I've
great for that.
actually
They're
eaten
great.
them.
They're a great protein source.
They are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pound by pound. But there was a celebrity there that was eating bat soup and telling people they should enjoy bat soup, which is absolutely terrible on every level. It just sounds gross to me. Let's make a bat soup, and you see a little head and the little teeth coming at you, and it looks like something out of Halloween, but yet.
Yeah, I don't need the Temple of Doom dining
No,
table
no,
experience
yes.
at all.
No, not at all,
The
but-
little eyeball bulbs up into the
Right, but that's the official cause that they're saying. I have a tendency to lean towards it might be something a little more conspiracy driven, like the biomedical research facility. But so we have bats to thank and people eating bats. So maybe we should just review what we eat. Before we go that route.
So which one is scarier in this scenario? Is it the accidental shooting yourself in the foot equivalent of releasing a bioweapon into the community, or you just happen to eat the wrong thing and you become patient zero?
They're both equally scary, but let me say that again. I think the one that where you accidentally shoot your foot is far more scary because if it's an engineered bioweapon, it means they've made it to do things that it wouldn't normally do in nature.
Such as resistance to a vaccine.
Or cause certain organs to shut down.
Yes.
Because there's been some rumors, and because I troll the sites for all the conspiracy stuff. There are some claiming that it is causing renal failure in people, which I was not aware of any
Those are
natural
your kidneys.
flu.
Those are your kidneys.
Yes. I'm not aware of any flu that shuts down the kidneys. But I'm also not a doctor. I'm not an epidemiologist or whatever that looks into these things. But
Well, it's certainly not good.
No, imagine that, you get the sniffles, you get a cough. Oh, there goes the kidneys.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can't.
Now I got to call up my cousin.
Yeah, but you know, if one gets out, that means another can get out, which means they probably don't have protocols in place to prevent those kind of things, which is even scarier.
That's true. Yes. Yeah, they're not going to have. Usually, they aren't going to have the means to stop something like that. And
How
so
do
we're
you
kind
stop something that is transmitted just from a simple touch, a cough, a sneeze? Apparently can survive for days on a surface. So what happens if somebody's working in China and Beijing who happens to be sick, who is packing up goods that are going across the U.S.? Usually it takes 90 days, but that life finds a way to do horrible things sometimes. So a box shows up, somebody touches it at a port of entry in Los Angeles, and then
boom.
infection.
Yep.
They go home, 2 weeks they're infecting people at the movie theater, the grocery store, kids at school, because they're so good at keeping themselves clean.
Public transportation,
Oh, buses.
gas stations.
Gas stations.
Yes, I remember. Again, I'm going to go back to it, but Gwyneth Paltrow is patient zero,
Yes, I remember that.
and she I believe she gets off a bus. She rubs her hand on a metal bar, and then just keeps showing that metal bar as people keep grabbing it. And there was the leader of the CDC, I believe, in that situation. She was leading the attempt to contain everything. And I remember her saying, and I've held this in my head ever since I saw that movie, don't touch your face.
Yeah.
She was like, don't touch your face.
don't.
If you don't touch your face, you can avoid.
Most
you
of
have a very high chance of avoiding it
Right.
if you can never go near your face. But everybody's constantly touching your face.
Yeah, you rub your eyes, your nose, all the time.
Scratching your
And how
nose.
often do we wash our hands?
Yeah.
Not enough.
No.
I mean, there's people that don't wash their hands after they go to the bathroom. Wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, ladies and gentlemen. That is just gross. But it's true. That's why I have a hard time going to the gym, because I'm like, who touched that? What do they have? Just somebody working out. If they used a machine.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and pulled up some of the current stats
Oh, here we go.
on the coronavirus cases. Right now, there's officially 8,246. Some people have claimed that this number is artificially low because communist countries have a tendency to only release the number that they've tested. Now, this is just the number of people they tested. They ran out of testing kits, according to some. So the number could be as high as 60,000, which is an unreal number. But
That
there's
would be insane, yeah.
8,246 current cases, 170 deaths based on that infection rate, which every disease has an infection rate. Did you know that when they rate it?
Of those contaminated and those to die?
It's called the transmission rate.
Oh, okay.
So are you familiar with the Spanish flu?
Yes.
Right after World War I, it killed something like a third of the world's population. It was just unreal.
Yeah.
And it had a transmission rate of 18 to 20. That means for every 100 people that were infected, 18 to 20. I think that's right. I'm also not an epidemiologist, so don't go. But the transmission rate estimated for the new coronavirus is 2.0 to 3.1. So I take that back. You will have 2 to 3 newly infected from one case. So if the Spanish flu, if one person had it, 18 people were going to get it, which is why it just decimated young people in the 30s. It didn't really hurt the young or old, but it killed most of the people who were in the trenches of World War I. And they brought it home, and it was just horrible. But this has an infection rate of 2.0 to 3.1 for now, because, again, these are just numbers that are being released by the Chinese government, and they have a fantastic history of being completely honest with us about everything.
Oh yeah, they're just an open book.
Fantastic, absolutely. And right now it has a 2% fatality rate. So for every 100 people that get it, 2 usually die, which who knows how long that's going to be that low.
What was the Spanish flu's rate? Fatality rate.
Oh, it was ridiculous here. We've got good old Google here. Let's ask. Spanish flu fatality rate. 20%. Holy crap.
When that is insane.
That's scary.
Yeah, because you think of the 1/3 of the world's population, so that.
Well, of the people that got
terrible at math,
sick,
but-
20 of 100 people who got sick, 20 of them died.
That's insane.
That is insane. That's
Yeah.
You got to remember this is also a time when there was no such thing really as antibiotics.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah. So if you got it, it was, try to get a hold of some orange juice and cross your fingers.
hope you don't die. Usually it's also affecting people who have pre-existing conditions. So the elderly, the very young, somebody who's already got problems. I mean, anybody that might be immunocompromised or in immunosuppressing drugs, if they were to be around that. It's almost a guarantee.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying in itself. The incubation period is estimated at 2 to 14 days. That 2-week period is what really freaks me out.
Yeah, because that's when it, and again, going back to Contagion, Gwyneth Paltrow, same thing. She had about 2 weeks, I think, before she started showing symptoms. And that's true of a lot of viruses. A lot of people think, well, oh, I was, I just now started coughing, so you're fine. It's like, no, you could have been spreading that for several days and had no idea that you were doing it.
Indeed.
It's the truly terrifying thing of viruses.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2 weeks you're walking around and just being able to go and not even knowing you're sick and giving it to someone, which just really freaks me out. And why do all these movies, this plays out like a bad sci-fi movie because there's all kinds of things that start to happen at home when you put cities under quarantine, all right? So it's estimated that about 55 million people are quarantined right now.
For this virus?
55 million people. You have Wuhan, you got parts of Beijing, you've got other surrounding cities inside of there. They've shut down almost all public transportation that we know of. They're not allowing people to leave. They've shut down all tourist travel. British Airways has said that they're not allowing flights in. In fact, I think the President of the United States should stop all international travel in and out of China until this ends, because this is the kind of thing that, if it spreads to the U.S., how long do you think it's going to be before people freak out and buy all the food off the shelves at the store? Because already in Wuhan, they're saying that food is disappearing from the shelves. So we've got probably 30 days before people start freaking out because they're going to get hungry. And if you don't have a way to feed your baby or yourself, you're going to start doing weird things. You're going to try to leave. You're going to try to take food. You're going to go after each other. I mean, you have the disaster. You have true apocalyptic disaster on the horizon if they don't start feeding people, or they let them starve and die. Because you got to remember, you're dealing with a communist country here. So what happens in the U.S. if it spreads here? How much food do you have in your pantry?
Not enough.
How many people live in apartments? Rely on public water? Rely on the grocery store to fill their shelves every week? Think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take long for society to start to collapse
No.
in on itself.
The only reason it works is because we agree to not do those things.
Yes. And when you are put into desperation mode,
Got to feed my babies.
yep, all of that goes out the window. You don't know
Absolutely.
what you're willing to do until you're put in that situation. And you've got, I believe it was Jude Law's character, which is the true vision to what we could experience with the virus like this, is that we have the introduction of social media with a viral outbreak.
Yes.
And it's not helpful. It's terrifying.
The Chinese government has clamped down onto that to the point where they've threatened to arrest you if you start social media posting about the coronavirus.
Which,
They could just shut down the
Sounds-
internet over there.
yeah, which sounds extreme, but there's a reason for it. And there are numerous conspiracies that have been released on social media already in regards to this virus. They already started trying to start a panic in Australia, in Sydney, saying that there was food contaminated with it.
Ooh.
That
Oh,
that got
yeah.
out.
Because now you
Yes.
got the weirdos starting to come out of the woodwork to
Yep.
say that, oh, yeah, there's always the weirdo factor.
Yep, and Jude Law's big thing in Contagion was that he pretended to get infected by the virus and then found that, if this little thing that's in this particular kind of medicine will cure you. And so it made everybody flood the pharmacies and buy this place out. And then it ends up turning out that the pharmaceutical company that owns that particular drug paid him to do that so that they would get.
That's right.
Yes, and so it can spiral out of control.
Right.
You had other conspiracies involving photos of a Wuhan market, but that was actually taken like the Philippines like 3 years ago or something like that. You've got the fake death projections of 11 million people. Obviously,
Kinda
way
creepy.
off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's almost believable that somebody would start to look at it and go, "Oh my God, this thing is horrible,"
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it makes
and it
sense.
caused social unrest. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got salt water kills the virus. Somebody's spreading that one around.
Oh my gosh,
just-
that
yeah.
would kill you if you were to inject such a thing, or even drink it.
Yeah. So you just
So the cures would be worse than the disease because this is survivable for some.
for majority at this point at least. And
The weirdo factor.
Yes,
What else weirdo factors out there?
we've got the U.S. is responsible. We released the bioweapon there. That was the top conspiracy for where it came from.
Really?
Yes, it was our fault. We did it.
See my look of shock on my face? Yeah, I could see people doing that. It's some sort of conspiracy group that's like, yeah, we're just going to defeat the Chinese with a disease. It's kind of
There we
weird.
go. Yeah. Now, and then there was a false alarm in France as well, where several social media posts said that they were experiencing the symptoms, and there was
Yeah, the weirdo's saying
contaminated-
I've got it and they don't.
Yeah. Which is also the true of the United States, right? We have like 5 or 6 reported cases in the United States, but who knows if any of those are actually real? I don't know how.
Yeah,
to
well, they
track
tested
those.
for them, and they did find the novel coronavirus, and I think it's through the antibodies in your body, but they were confirmed. But they've had zero spread since their introduction in the United States. At least that's the official story.
And they're as far east because the West Coast makes sense because that's where people were coming from China. It was as far as east as Illinois, I believe, was the one. There was one reported case in Illinois or Michigan, somewhere over there into the east. Which that's the scary part to me is how did that guy get that far?
A lot of these people were travelers from Wuhan or somewhere in China. At least most of the cases, people had visited Wuhan, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how to approach that. So we got the weirdo factor out there. We've got the factor that not everybody's telling us the truth, which will start to spread conspiracy theories because once people get a taste of them feeling like somebody's lying to them, they'll just make crap up. And then you've got those who are freaking out, who want to start taking your food, water. Oh, this has got all of the ingredients for an apocalypse.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You think it takes the loss, it takes a Mad Max scenario where we lose gas and water.
Yeah.
And it's one of our required elements for survival at this point in our culture and our society. But it just takes a little cold.
A little cold. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm an anthropologist, and so one of the things that happens when stuff goes horribly wrong is you start getting these factions. You have groups of people against groups of people. So someday you might have this group of infected that lived versus the non-infected. Imagine that for a moment.
In the sense that the infected feel abandoned
Well-
in their moment of need, or that the people are still afraid.
They're not going to want to go anywhere near them because you had the disease. They should be quarantined. We have to get rid of them. We'll do that by any means necessary for our fitness and survival.
What are the chances of? I mean, there are virtually no chances of reintroducing the virus through a person that was once infected, no longer. Is there? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not an epidemiologist. But imagine these things are a virus. You know what I mean? They like to creep and hold. Why doesn't the cold flu go away every year? It lives somewhere. It has to survive. Does it sit dormant inside of a body? I mean, are you permanently affected? The answer is probably not, but why do these cases just continue to grow? Why hasn't the viruses that cause the common cold just died off? I mean, there's evidence the dinosaurs had forms of bird flu.
Yes. Yeah.
So how does it survive millions upon millions of years? They went extinct, and yet we still have the relics of that DNA surviving.
In regards to the small sample size of summer to summer, the same cold moving, and surviving, and that I don't know. I know across millions of years, the issue has been the permafrost and the freezing of areas. So this Siberia right now is a huge deal because it's slowly warming up,
Right.
and it is releasing new viruses into the world.
Bacterias and all kinds of crazy things.
France just found a new virus it was like the largest flu virus that they'd ever found, where you can, I guess, most viruses you can't see under a microscope. This one's so big you can see it under a microscope.
That's gross.
Yeah, and it supposedly, and now I don't know how they found this out, but supposedly it is harmless to humans, and I think they said dogs. They tested
Yeah.
it apparently on a couple of.
Right.
I don't know who decided to be the test dummy for that, but they found out somehow they were able to determine that it was harmless to humans. But there are, I mean, that was something they just came across. So the chances of finding something else, an ancient thing that managed to survive or freeze and hibernate, which hibernation would be considered a living thing. I recently discovered that there is a debate over whether or not a virus is actually technically considered alive.
Yes, because it's mostly RNA.
Yeah. And so it's almost like it's just a force, like the weather, which is interesting to think about. Yeah. It's this weird it's this weird combination between the living and a rock. But it actually affects you, which is why
And it
it's so-
reproduces very
Yes.
well.
Yes.
I mean, it destroys cells. It's designed to actually inject itself into cells. I mean, you look at the HIV/AIDS virus. I mean, it looks like a diamond with a tube with a needle and these legs that attach to a cell and simply injects the material. I mean, it looks like it's a...
Yeah. It looks like a moon lander.
Yeah, I mean, like it was a machine designed to inject DNA. And the other thing we haven't touched on is the mutation aspect, because apparently some viruses, and this is just a number I've heard, that they can evolve up to 5,000 times faster than any other living organism because they're so small and they adapt readily to their environment, which is why these things could, once it's out there, it's out there.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the scariest thing. The more simplistic the organism, the more likely it is the quicker it can evolve, the quicker it can change and adapt to its environment to find a way to survive. Tardigrades are the perfect example of that.
You're scaring me, dude. This
water-
is getting weirder and weirder by the moment.
If you haven't heard of tardigrades, those
Yeah.
are fun little creatures you should
From
look
Star
up.
Trek, but they
Water
survive in
bears,
space.
They do.
Yeah,
They
they're like
dehydrate
invincible.
themselves. Yes. They'll dehydrate themselves. They're the only organism on the planet multicellular organism that can survive in space. They're fun little guys.
Freaking me out. This whole thing is freaking me. I'm actually genuinely worried about this one. They've had a lot of other outbreaks out there, but for the most part, they just weren't that bad. But for some reason, this one gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
It really does. So I've ordered a ton of food and water. Like
Oh, you have?
Walmart's just been showing up with pallets of stuff. It's freaking my wife out. She's like, "Why are you ordering all this food?" And I was like, "If it goes bad, trust me, you'll want to eat rehydrated mac and cheese." So I don't know. I don't want to start mass panic, but food disappears quick. It
Just-
really does.
If you don't want to start panicking yet, just keep an eye on the West Coast, see how things are going.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It'll start in the most unlikely place because that's just how these things work.
Nebraska.
Right, middle of Wyoming, right across the border. And the thing is that let's say you've got this outbreak and another natural disaster hits. Or what if you got a terrorist organization that decides they want to infect somebody and just simply walk them over a border, like the southern border? What's going to stop them? How would you prove it? How would you even set something up to prevent that from happening? The answer is we couldn't, which terrifies me.
Yeah, we have nothing in place to
No, I
prevent
mean,
something
the
like
southern border is wide open. We know that. I don't care what your political view is. People cross that border with impunity.
Yes.
What's-
Canada too.
What was to stop anybody from crossing both borders with the disease, with the intent to infect others?
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing, which is terrifying. So, yeah, I have gas masks now, gloves. Yeah, I have
You're going all out.
I have the suits. The
The hazmat suits?
Well, I've got yeah. So the wife's kind of freaking out. She's like, "Why are you buying all this stuff?" And
You're not taking any chances.
no, the whole truck's ready to go. If things were to go horribly wrong, I've got a place to hide,
There is an episode of X-Files called
which is my favorite show.
so good.
It's part of the reason I do this.
It was called Revenge of the macrophages or whatever. It's the
Oh.
fancy science term for cockroach, and I forgot what it was.
Oh, yes.
But it was the whole point of the episode was that a mass panic is started in this small town because they believe that there are killer cockroaches that are out to kill everybody.
I remember that episode.
It was so good because it was the one time that Scully was right the entire time. She had an explanation for everything that happened, and it ended up that was the case, and the entire city lost it for no good reason.
God, I love that show.
I know it's so
I love
good.
Scully too.
But it doesn't take much. It
No.
doesn't take much to send people for a panic because now you correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong,
panic.
but your goal with the collection of these things is not to protect yourself from the virus necessarily, it's to protect yourself from the collapse of society.
It's both.
Okay.
Because one, I don't want to get infected.
Of course.
Because I have to protect myself. The second is that the most dangerous animal and thing that is in this world is the human being.
Yes.
I learned that in anthropology. I learned that with law enforcement. I learned that camping. You know, the most dangerous thing, besides a grizzly bear, if they really decide to take you, they will. But humans are the most dangerous thing that you will ever run into.
Was that great line from Men in Black? A person is smart, but people are
s-
dumb,
yeah.
panicky.
And stupid, yes. And they will. You know what I mean? Once hysteria hits, it becomes just that. It becomes a frenzied panic society. And when you have a frenzied panic society, people do stupid things. Society begins to fall completely apart. The norms of culture go away, period. We've seen that in any time that there's been a mass killing, genocides. You see that. You see this factionalization of people. You see these groups getting together. You see groups pitting against one another. You see groups taking from other groups. You see groups killing other groups because there's some sort of perceived threat. And if there's a perceived threat, everything as we understand it goes away. So if you're not ready to protect yourself, the police won't be there. It's like that scene from World War Z when Brad Pitt and the big RV, they park, they run into the store, they're stealing something, they see the cop, and the cop looks at him, and they think they're going to get arrested, and he walks right past him and grabs water off the shelf.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they're they just
Cops are going to think. And the only, thing about the military, the government will only be there, and I've done drills with FEMA and stuff like that. So I have got a bit of an insight on the things that they like to do. They are there for the continuity of government, because that is what holds society together from their perspective. So they will only do things to protect the government. First thing they're going to do is they take over water. Period. The second is that anything that is a food store, they're going to take over. All of the streets, highways, and stuff like that, they will then begin to control. The next thing they're going to go after is most likely cell phone towers. And I wouldn't be surprised if with the turn of a button they can turn the internet off and on when they want to, because they have to control narratives and prevent panic.
which shutting down the internet in this day and age
Would itself cause panic.
Yeah.
People would lose their minds. And talk about a societal breakdown at that point.
Oh yeah.
Because we're very First Amendment. We got the Constitution. People are very freedom-loving, especially in Colorado and Texas. You name it. When that goes away, that would also be the first sign that things are breaking down.
Yep.
And then you've got to look for those signs, which they'll be there. God, this sounds horrible. The more I talk about this, the more I get paranoid. But that's why we're here.
Yes. Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Is to freak ourselves out to the.
Yeah, to the point of, we're not trying to cause mass panic. Please don't sue us over that. We're just saying that things can go wrong, so you should really get ready.
But seriously.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is kind of a fun one. I'm really excited to doing this more as we move forward.
Yes. Absolutely.
We'll cover everything from UFOs, ghosts, weird things that we like, even kind of wacky news. I like wacky news. I love Bigfoot stuff.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. There was something I was listening to the other day that was talking about there's some pretty legit cases of the Yeti that we could get into.
Absolutely. Like again, I'm an anthropologist. I believe that it's some sort of North American primate that looks very human. And if you were to see them, how would you know that they're not a human from a distance? They hide in plain sight because they look a lot like us. They just happen to be really big. And I've seen some things. I have lived on an Indian reservation. And there are stories that those folks will tell you that will make you turn white. No pun intended. But it is, and there's other stories that you're kind of like, whatever, you're just making that up. But once you see something happen in front of you, it has a tendency to change you forever.
It is hard to take a Billy Bob down the street local drunk seriously when he I was down there shooting them damn hogs, and the guy came right out the forest.
9 feet tall, hairy, smelled like. Well, you know how it is.
Well, you know, it didn't even smell like it. Oh, yeah, it always smells like a skunk. You know, it smelled like a skunk. You know, I got a shot of it, but, you know, it's grainy and blurry and it's all.
What is Mitch Hedger is like? Maybe Bigfoot is just blurry. maybe he's right. And we'll cover more of the UFO issue because in Colorado we had that drone scare.
We did.
And did I ever tell you what my thought on that was?
No.
I thought that the drone thing was actually the U.S. government testing their capabilities to fight drones.
Ooh.
So you test it against yourself. All right. So So we've kind of gone off topic, but we're kind of done with the coronavirus. We've covered everything that we could with that.
I think so.
So Saudi Arabia was attacked with a series of drones from Hezbollah. They attacked their oil pipelines. This is the whole reason they really hate Iran right now. Right? How do you stop that? In fact, they had U.S. anti-aircraft and missile defense systems around there, and the drones went right past them.
Yes.
Right past them.
Yep.
Because they couldn't detect them.
Yeah, they're too small.
So if you are a state-level government and you want to figure out how to protect yourself against something, you take that, whatever it is, and you test it against yourself. And you test it in one of the most sensitive areas in the whole country. What about Colorado? We have nuclear missile silos on the east side. We have the Air Force Academy. We have how many military bases? We have how many secret things here that we don't even know about?
NORAD.
To the north, south. We've got NORAD. And we've got some of the best radar detection systems on the planet all around us. And if you're flying these drones around and they're not being picked up by local radar at airports, they're most likely not being picked up by non-standard radar by the U.S. government. Now, the Air Force certainly has some radar detection systems that are seeing those flying Tic Tacs that you saw the Navy with, so they've got some advanced radar. But the best way to test it is to send that stuff against yourself before the enemy gets to do it.
Yes, and that is a very interesting theory. I don't know how much I can indulge without getting arrested. I used to work for a government contractor that make technology for the military, and that was something that they were working on. That's a countermeasures towards drones.
Yes,
I think that I can say that, but yeah.
Yeah, we're all held by some NDAs, but don't worry about it. That is just we already know something like that is happening. But how do we protect ourselves against drones? Even the small drones that you can buy at a local store, there are terrorist groups that just slap on some C4 or something like C4, and you've got a flying bomb.
Yep.
Pack some BBs on it from your local Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
how would you protect yourself?
Yeah, that's all it takes, because you don't use you don't strap an AR to them.
No.
You make them flying explosives. Because then if they are detected, we don't have anything that's designed to take out that small of a target in a swarm.
Right.
You don't have that of a swarm of drones. And so if you take out half of them, that's still
so you only got
those things flying at
and if you've got a swarm of them, because it's not hard to program swarms. We see those little drones at the Super Bowl put beautiful little shapes in the sky.
Yep.
What's the difference between saying fly into this?
Yep.
I thought at one point those drones were probably being used for two other reasons: to detect illegal marijuana growing in Colorado, because they were flying a bunch of over rural areas that were farms, which made a lot of sense to me. The DA wants to see what's going on. They've got some way of detecting whether you're growing illegal pot and selling it. Makes a lot of sense. The other was maybe drug cartels that were trying to figure out ways to move drugs without people sensing it. Because how would you move drugs on a drone? But the problem is that it would just be cost ineffective, because they just can't carry that much. These are some pretty big drones. You could probably put about 30 pounds on them.
And what was their distance? I think that was the other thing.
Yeah, it's only like 60 miles. It's really, really short.
Yeah, because I think there was one farmer's point that he said that he saw a drone go from point A to point B, and he didn't understand how it could go that distance without needing, some type of...
Right. It's either radar controlled, like our Predator UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, or somebody's got a van out there that is just driving alongside with them. So I'd be curious if there was a vehicle, like a chase vehicle going with it too. That is the one, people are too busy looking up and they weren't looking down to see if there was a chase vehicle.
Yeah, that's possible.
So I just think it was us testing it against us, because that's how the Air Force thinks. And the other thing is, let's say you were to turn these into a mobile radar detector system. So you could set up an array of detectors on top of these drones to detect stealth aircraft. Because stealth aircraft are only stealthy from one direction,
Yeah.
but they're usually not from the bottom. So it's something the Russians figured out about stealth bombers and stuff like that, is that using cell phone towers, you can get an idea of what's flying overhead. So now, why not make a mobile version of it? Although that would be kind of too small in scale, probably not it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But, I mean, when you've got an array of something out there, you can start doing weird stuff with it. The other thing is, what if you attached a bunch of just cell phone transmitters on them and just try to flood your local call centers? There's all kinds of nasty things you could do with it.
It's true that I always felt like drones were kind of that line from Jurassic Park where Ian Malcolm says, like, we were so caught up with whether or not we could, we never stopped to think if we should. And drones on the surface seems completely harmless, but just even going and buying one from Best Buy, you can do a lot of stuff with that thing.
Yeah.
That people,
Which is why the FAA wants to know what you're up to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah, and they're not set up to handle it.
Yeah.
they're designed to handle large aircraft, and they have come out and said they are not prepared to handle drones. They're not designed to handle drones, and so they're trying to pass bills. I think the first one was in Arizona or something, where they're trying to figure out a way to manage this somehow with all the drones.
Yeah, it really makes me think that we were testing it on ourselves,
Yeah.
which is kind of old news, but it's not, because it's going to pop back up.
Yeah.
We're going to see it again,
Yep.
and things are going to be different. With that whole new Space Force and things going on, I think we've got some advanced detection technology that's about to really blow our minds. And it might also show us that there's things flying in the sky that we have no idea about, and disclosure would be soon. Unless the UFOs we see are actually U.S. government projects.
They're just people from the future.
I've heard that
Sounds
one.
like it.
I've heard that one. Time tourists.
Yeah, there you go. Which I think that if as soon as you are seen as soon as you're acknowledged, wouldn't that just be isn't that the butterfly effect?
What
As
would
soon
it
as you-
change?
Yeah, what would it change if somebody just happened to spot you? That changes this distraction. That means that they're doing something different than they would have done 30 seconds ago.
It just goes down in history as a UFO phenomenon.
All right.
We saw things.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
We saw it since 1600.
What was that?
I don't know, though. But you make a good point. I mean,
sound-
it affects everything.
The Sound of Thunder by the Bradbury book, I think.
Oh, I know.
Where they're doing time touristing, and they go back and they kill dinosaurs that are just about to die.
Yeah.
I think it's so they can go hunting for like a T-Rex. So the T-Rex is about to keel over, and they get to shoot it before it dies. But you have to stay on this path so that you don't disturb anything. And I think the whole point is that this guy falls off the side and he crushes a butterfly on accident, and then they go back to the future and everything's just a nightmare.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. No, it's a good one. I enjoy the first one. People are going to get more of this from us. And that'll be fun. Because, coronavirus scares me. We got into the drones a little bit. I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to cover on the whole coronavirus thing before I make everybody completely and totally paranoid?
I will say, for anybody else out there that is like a movie enthusiast, do watch Contagion. It may actually genuinely prepare you, because it is very realistic to what we've been talking
They had
about.
a lot of good writers.
That one's a good one. You can also, if you're interested in any of the permafrost or that situation, these movies aren't necessarily great films, but The Thaw kind of covers that concept, as well as The Last Winter, I believe is what it was called. That's a Fessenden movie.
With all the sci-fi that's been written, we should be better prepared.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Who's sitting in the White House saying we need somebody to deal with this? And the answer is probably next to nobody, which is even scarier. Worldwide, I mean, you've got to remember that this kind of stuff we're just not prepared for. Well, that was a pleasant note to end on. That is going to be the way we do it. Hit us with the bell ringing again.
Yes. Just to remind you to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you are on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Ding, ding, ring that bell. we can't do this job unless you like us, and we want to keep doing this.
Please like us.
I need the paycheck.
I'm insecure.
That's, I have anxiety. It's really bad. It's really bad.
I can't imagine why.
No, well, it's the
imagine
level
where
of
it's coming from.
paranoia. Oh, so guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to continue this kind of talk from here on out. I can't decide what I want to do next week. It's either going to be UFOs, Bigfoot, or whatever shows up on the internet, because I love UFOs. I've seen so many different ones.
Oh, it's fun.
I love it. So.
Come in all shapes and sizes.
They do. They do. So, guys, thank you for listening to the Paranormal Pass. We are a Colorado-based paranormal podcast brought to you by ourcommunitynow.com. Visit our website. Consume what we have. It is really good stuff. Everything you read there makes you feel good. We enjoyed having you here today. I'm Josh Hammerling, and this is
Dalton Van Hooser, and watch the skies.
Absolutely, and we will see you guys soon.